Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
Now entering the game for Philly Pressbox Radio, Bill Furman and Jim Chet Chesko.
Hey, Philly sports fans. It is Wednesday, September 13th, 2023. Welcome to the Philly Pressbox Radio Roundtable, brought to you by the Irish Rover Station House in Langhorne, PA, Allstate Insurance in Westchester, PA, and Cavs Philly Tailgates. Bill Furman is off this week. Mr. International is somewhere in Europe as we speak. I'm Chet, and I'll be with you for the next 55 minutes to an hour or so, talking, well, lots of Eagles and Phillies, a little Penn State, maybe a little Sixers. We'll see. But I'm going to be right up front with you. This show is not live. We are not live tonight. It was pre-taped. So that being the case, I know a lot of folks comment during the broadcast, hoping to, maybe see their name up in lights in real time. Well, that's not going to happen this week, unfortunately. That is the bad news. The good news, it's going to be a great show with a first-time visitor joining me and the return of a fan favorite. You know who that is. I'm talking about, well, WPHL 17's Jason Lee, first of all, and Mr. Boopstats himself, Bob Vetrone Jr. All right, the local sports scene in a nutshell since we last met. The Phillies have certainly had their ups and downs over the past week, more of those late-game bullpen meltdowns that we've unfortunately gotten used to. Yet another concerning mid-game meltdown, awful inning from Aaron Nola. That was on Saturday. They won the game at least. More home runs by Kyle Schwarber, who's finally got his average up to and even a little above the 200 mark in recent days. And the Phils do still have a pretty decent hold, we think, on the top wild card spot, which is so very important because that means they would host that opening postseason best-of-3 wild card series against the Cubs or whomever it would be at Citizens Bank Park. I'd like to see more consistency from the Phillies, but as a famous British singer once said, you can't always get what you want, right? The Eagles, well, they're 1-0, but man, if you listen to the radio or look at social media, you'd think they got blown out up in New England on Sunday. To be fair, they did not play a great game. We know that. I mean, DeAndre Swift got, 2 touches? Dallas Goedert had 1 official target. Jalen Hurts was so-so at best. The vaunted Eagles defense had a couple of sacks only. Jalen Carter did have a nice one late in the game that was important. And Slay turned an interception into a pick 6, which they really needed. So the Eagles did get the win, and that's the bottom line, right? A win is a win is a win. And there's another game now Thursday night, the Eagles' home opener against those Minnesota Vikings. No problem last year when the Vikings came to town in week 2, and hopefully that'll be a repeat this year. I did not get to see any of the Penn State football game on Saturday. Did the Nittany Lions even break a sweat in that one? They hosted Delaware, that football power. The Vegas line was 44 or 45 points, I believe, and the Lions actually covered it handily, a 63-7 blowout win. The Big Ten schedule begins this weekend with the Lions visiting the 1-1 Fighting Illini, and Penn State is a 2-touchdown favorite in that one. Hey, before I bring on my first guest, let me actually tell you about a couple of things happening at the Irish Rover Station House in Langhorne. You know that I love the Rover because they do such a great job with pretty much everything they do. And I'm going to pop over there for a bit Thursday evening before the Eagles and Vikings kick off. And that is because the Rover will be the site for a Thursday night kickoff event from WMMR, 93.3 WMMR's Preston and Steve show. Nick McElwain in the house. If you listen to MMR in the mornings, you know Nick. 7 to 9 p.m. Thursday. They have $3 Bud Lights and Mick Ultra draft specials. You can register for a chance to win Eagles tickets for the October 1st game at the Link against the Commanders. Say hello to Nick for me. And I've already told you about this. Coming up at the end of the month, We are now just 2.5 weeks away, in fact, from the Irish Rovers Oktoberfest Bash. That is noon to 6 on September 30th, when this great Irish bar and restaurant goes German. Some great German food and beers, plus giveaways, and they're always fun. Stein hoisting competition. Always a good time. I will be there for sure. Get all the info on that, plus the weekly Thursday through Sunday dinner specials, and much, much more. You can find that on the Rovers website, IrishRoverStationHouse.com. All right, it's time we bring on our first guest, isn't it? It is indeed. So let's see if we can find all that and get to it. I know this guy from his work on PHL 17 and elsewhere. Some of you may not, so let me introduce you to him. He hosted the PHL 17 sports scene the last couple of years. He does various other things at Channel 17. You can catch him most weekends playing some great music on Oldies XL, and by all accounts, he's a great guy. Welcome to Philly Pressbox Radio, Jason Lee. How you doing, Jason?
Chet, the check is in the mail, my friend. Thank you. I appreciate the intro, and I appreciate the invite. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. We'll talk Eagles and Phillies in just a bit, but how long have you been at PHL 17, and what have you not done there?
Let's see. I haven't collected the trash, but that could still happen. You never know. I've done pretty much everything there. It's been almost 9 years. I was the weatherman for a little while. I filled in doing traffic. I've anchored a couple times. Honestly, I'm a terrible anchor, and it's been like 7 years since they used me to fill in for anchoring. And like you said, for 2 years I hosted Sports Scene. So that show was a dream come true. It didn't last as long as I had hoped it would, but you know the way that this business is, Chet.
Oh yeah.
I'm grateful I got to do it, and it was a blast. And it could be back. You never know.
Yeah, and even though the show's not airing anymore, at least you still have a job, and that's more than some people can say in this business.
Well, that's why, I mean, I'm not going to complain. I was sad when I was told the show was going away, and I understood. I mean, we got the CW network, so it's all that primetime programming that the CW has. There wasn't as much room for the existing shows, so some shows had to go, and I get that. But yeah, I'm grateful to still be there. It's a great place to work. There's wonderful people there. And, you know, I'm involved with the morning news, and I'm a little biased, of course, but I like the product that we put out every day. So I think it's pretty good.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll talk more about that in a little while, but let's talk about that week 1 Eagles victory. I mean, any win is a good win in the NFL. See, there you go, right there. But yeah, they did not look all that great on either side of the ball in the 25-20 victory on Sunday. Obviously, you agree. Why did they not look too sharp?
Well, okay, this is going to go back to an argument that I've had for the last couple of years, and I don't know how you feel about this, Chet.
Preseason?
Yes. And I know Sirianni said something about that in his press conference, but look, I get the main thing is get through without getting hurt. I understand that. But then you're shaking off the rust in games 1, 2, and 3, and this is what you get. To me, injuries are a part of the game. And no, I don't want to see Jalen Hurts, God forbid, or anybody else get hurt in the preseason. But you know, I kind of think you need real game action before you step into a real game. You need something like these joint practices that I guess are now taking the place of the preseason games. To me, it's not the same.
And you have DeAndre Swift, 2 touches, Dallas Goedert, invisible man for the most part, even though apparently he was open a few times. That's got to change.
He was wide open a few times. Yeah, it does have to change. And, you know, the play calling, yeah, definitely left a lot to be desired. And, you know, I don't know if that's part of shaking off the rust. I don't know what it is, but you got a guy like Dallas Goedert. What did he have? 1 target the entire game, Chet? Is that what it was?
Yes, he did. 1 target. And as you said, he was open a few other times, and either Jalen missed him or just ignored him for some reason. And yeah, they got to fix that.
Yeah, and is Gainwell going to be the feature back now? I mean, it
sure
certainly seemed like that, didn't it?
Although he apparently got banged up a little bit, ribs or whatever. Hopefully he'll be okay for Thursday night. Quick turnaround. That's another thing. And Kobe Dean is likely going to be out for that game with a foot injury. So 1 game in, there's already some injury concerns. So hopefully not too serious, because big game Thursday night, the home opener. And do the Vikings scare you at all?
No. I guess Cousins didn't have that bad of a game for game 1.
His numbers are pretty good, certainly.
Yeah, his numbers were pretty good.
But they lost.
I really don't. I guess I don't know how to answer that question based on how the Eagles looked on Sunday. The offense has to get it together. Jalen Hurts, we all love the guy, but he didn't look good. And what was it in the fourth quarter, that one play call where he held the ball and he took that hit? I mean, you can't be putting him at risk like that. I guess for me, it's a wait and see thing. I want to see if the rust is off on Thursday night, and then I'll feel much better going forward. I'm not going to say I'm pessimistic. I still think they win the game, but I'm not going to say it's a blowout. I think it's going to be a close game.
I still think they're the best team in the NFC, even though the Cowboys certainly looked pretty good Sunday night.
Oh, my gosh,
and
they looked
the
amazing.
Niners, who I thought maybe weren't really so good, the Niners looked pretty good in crushing Pittsburgh. That was my upset special. Did not happen.
Well, let me ask you this. Yeah. The Cowboy game, was that more so the Cowboys or more so how bad the Giants are?
Boy, the Giants did not look good at all, but the Cowboys did play very well. They forced some of those turnovers. I'm still not scared of the Cowboys, though. I'm not worried. Not worried.
I like it.
Turn our attention to the Phillies. They seem to be still in decent shape to hold on to that top wild card spot. But
do they?
Well, they've had some recent bad losses, a lot of bullpen meltdowns. The good news is they have a favorable schedule down the stretch. Other than this current series with the Braves and another one with
that's
the Braves
true.
next week, they have a lot of games against the Cardinals, the Pirates, the stinking Mets. So bad news is the Phillies have not had a winning September, early October since 2017, and they're under 500 here so far early in September. So should we be worried?
I'm worried. And forgive me, because I'm coming off like a pessimistic Philadelphia fan ever since the show began. And I'm usually not pessimistic, Chet. I'm really not. But, there's a lot of questions about this pitching staff, both the starters and the bullpen.
Yep.
I mean, how many Bryce Harper moments is the bullpen going to mess up?
No, man.
That's my question. Aaron Nola.
Oh, man, he's another one. Don't get me started on Aaron Nola. I mean, look, there he is. He looks great sometimes, like 3 starts ago, and then his start last week and his start on Saturday. I had the 5th inning meltdown. I don't know. They got to get him right for the postseason if they're going to have a shot.
Well, they got to get him right. They got to get the bullpen right, too. I mean, the first game on Monday, they bring in Alvarado. Atlanta gets the lead right away. I've totally given up on Sir Anthony Dominguez. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to be of the thinking that you have to keep putting him out there to kind of get himself right.
Now I don't want to see him out there.
Right. I'm past that now. The guy does have a lot of talent. I don't know if it's between the years. I don't know what's going on with him, but they got to get the guy right. Besides Jeff Hoffman, who in the bullpen right now? I mean, even Kimbrel has been shaky since the All-Star break.
Very much, because he's never pitched this many innings since he was like 25, and that was quite a long time ago.
Right.
So, yeah, that's definitely a concern. And as you said, the starters, once you get past Wheeler, there are no sure things. Taijuan Walker has been very shaky lately. I know he's got 15 wins, but that's because they seem to score a lot of runs for him. I don't feel good about Lorenzen. They got to hope they score 10 runs every game in the postseason, I think.
But will that be enough? Will it? And listen, and as potent as we think this lineup is, can they score 10 runs, especially once you get into the playoffs and the pitching is better? It seems like lately, if they don't hit home runs, they don't really score very much. They're not really hitting with runners in scoring position. So they're not, as they say, manufacturing runs. So, I mean, I'm kind of, there's a lot of question marks at a really bad time about both the pitching and about the offense.
Hey, I want to get back to the guy you mentioned, Bryce Harper. I feel badly for him. He hits home run number 300, a week or so back, and they end up losing the game. Monday afternoon, he hits that dramatic 9th inning home run to tie the game, and we saw what happened after that. This guy can't seem to catch a break, but he's doing all he can, and boy, I hope we have a happier ending than it might appear to be at this point.
You know what's great about Bryce Harper? I don't know how he does it, but a guy who makes $26 million a year can somehow relate to the everyday fan, can relate to the average Joe, can relate to you and me. I mean, the guy is a gazillionaire. He makes more money, in 1 week than you and I will make in, I don't know how many years, but at the same time, he's relatable. And he's I hate to use the cliche, but he's a Philly type guy. He's a hard worker. He puts the time in, he cares. Is he the most clutch player the Phillies have ever had? Boy. And it's strange to say because relatively speaking, he hasn't really been here a long time, but is he?
Lenny Dykstra in 1993,
Oh,
maybe.
yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, not a whole lot of other ones. Hey, you mentioned Aaron Nola. Is he going to be with the Phillies next year, do you think?
That's a tough question. I mean, I guess it depends on how much money he's looking for. People will pay for starting pitching, and I have a feeling he's going to get an offer from somewhere else that's going to blow him away, and the Phillies aren't going to want to match it. He's so frustrating because, the talent's there, and we've seen flashes of brilliance. He had 2 starts, I guess, earlier, a month or so ago. He had 2 straight starts where we thought maybe he's starting to come back around. But then, as you said earlier, he went back to his old self, and it seems like every start he has that one bad inning. I mean, he'll be great for, innings 1 through 4, but then in the 5th inning, it all implodes. And all of a sudden he's given up 5 runs in 5 innings. So I don't know. I mean, if I had to guess, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say he's going to get an offer from somewhere, and Dave Dombrowski's not going to want to match it.
But he's always healthy, which is good. He's always going to, be in the rotation somewhere. So who knows? We'll see. Hey, let's talk about a few other things, because it was too depressing talking about the Eagles so-so win and the Phillies potential September meltdown.
Yeah.
I got your visit last month to Rosie and Bill's video podcasts. A great half-hour conversation, by the way.
Thank you.
And you mentioned that you've never gotten the opportunity to do play-by-play, and you kind of lobbied to give Scott Fransky a few innings off. You don't have like a hit on Scott Fransky, do you?
Oh no! Listen, I love Scott Fransky. I think he's tremendous. His call of the Bryce Harper home run on Monday. Did you hear it? He's like, "Did he do it again? He did it again."
I did actually, yes, because I was at work and I didn't get the opportunity to watch it, so I had Fransky on, and he's great. I love Scott. Had him on the show every year, every spring we have him on. He's terrific. Great job.
He's great on the air. He's a hell of a nice guy. No, listen, I'm a big Fransky fan. I'm just thinking if he wants to take a break for an inning, that's all. I've gotten to know LA pretty well. I think we have some good chemistry, right? Why not?
I love LA. That was him and I down in Florida on St. Patrick's Day, as a matter of fact, in our green. And LA is awesome. But you've never done any kind of play-by-play anywhere, huh?
Never did. And it's funny. As I told Rosie and Bill, growing up, the guys who I idolized and the reasons I wanted to get into broadcasting it was all sportscasters. It was Harry Callis, it was Merrill Reese, who I know and I've had him on my show too. He's a great guy. Back in the day, Gene Hart with the Flyers. I love Gene Hart, and I was always a big Bob Costas fan, from NBC and now the MLB network. So I've always wanted to do sports. But you know how broadcasting is. You go where the gig is. You take the jobs as they come. I never saw myself as a weatherman, but it happened for a while. I did a little less than a year as a sports update guy at WIP. But beyond that, and then until I got Sports Scene on PHL, I hadn't done any sports, and I've never done any play-by-play besides as a little kid holding a pencil up to my mouth as a microphone and watching the Phillies and turning down the sound and doing play-by-play to the TV. That was it.
Yeah, we've all done the fake broadcasting stuff. I got to tell you, I was the color analyst for Princeton basketball for a couple of years, back when. And my one and only play-by-play experience was actually calling one period of a Penn State ice hockey game for college radio, and it was a bona fide disaster.
Really? See, hold on, because look, you've obviously you got the pipes for it, you got the voice for it.
Here's the problem. I didn't really follow the Penn State hockey team. They all looked exactly the same as far as size. They all had the white helmets on. The game was moving very fast, and it was like the longest 20 minutes of my life, and I had no desire to go back and try it again.
Well, hockey, that's a really hard sport for it to be your first and only play-by-play assignment. The fastest sport that there is. I always marveled at how Jim Jackson, the longtime Flyers play-by-play guy, when he did Phillies games for a little while. He was, I guess, pre and post game, and he did a couple innings of play-by-play on the radio. He did the fastest sport known to man and the slowest sport.
That is true.
And he was great at both.
Yeah. Well, no more hockey for me, that's for sure. Although I will listen to Jim Jackson and Brian Boucher rejoining him now as
which is a great hire, by the way. Great hire.
Yeah. Everybody loves Boosh.
Yep.
All right. I know that your sports show on PHL 17, just like my situation here, gives you the opportunity to talk to a lot of great Philly athletes and media folks. And we've even had some of the same favorites. You mentioned Larry Anderson, Merrill Reese, Mike Sealski, Bernie Perrant. For me was just a great get. I kind of, met him several times and got to know his wife, Jeannie, a little bit.
Yep.
So I knew she handled all his
Great
booking
people.
and everything. And I just basically badgered her for about 6 months and she finally made it happen. So I got to talk to Bernie in 2019. And as you'd expect, he was terrific. Who are some of your favorites to talk with?
Well, you mentioned Bernie. Bernie is one of my favorites. In fact, I wanted Bernie to be my final guest on my last show, and he was. And as he always is, he was fantastic. We had a lot of fun. LA is one of my favorites. There are certain guests who you can always call upon, who are always good, who always bring the information, who always bring a lot to the table. Mike Sealski, you mentioned, he's one of them.
Love Mike.
Marcus Hayes is another one. Devon Gibbons, who just left the Fanatic. He was, anytime I had him on, he was always fantastic.
We talked before we went live about Ray Didinger. And Ray Didinger has been on with Bill Furman and me 22 times over the last 9 years. And he's just the best. I mean, he is a Hall of Famer and he's a Hall of Fame person as well.
He's unbelievable. I mean, and I had him on twice, and I don't know him probably nearly as well as you do, but I was so impressed with how a guy who has achieved so much. I mean, like you said, he's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The guy is so down to earth, and it's like he doesn't think he's that big of a deal, but he is. Oh, yeah. He is that big of a deal. And what
he sucks at retirement though.
That he does, yeah. But what impresses me about him, I mean, you think about all he's done and the different medias that he's worked in. I mean, he's obviously excelled in newspapers. He was a success on television. He was a success on radio. He's a successful author. I mean, everything this guy tries to do. Oh, and a playwright. Yeah. Everything this guy tries to do, he not only does it well, he does it unbelievably well.
That is true.
He's an impressive guy, very impressive guy.
Oh, also on your last show, in addition to Bernie Perrant, you had the great Angelo Cataldi, and that was a real fun chat too. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, Angelo was great. He's got a book coming out in a couple of months, and it was a wonderful conversation. And I again, he's a guy, 33 years at WIP, hosting the morning show, which anybody who knows anything about radio, 33 years is like, 8 or 9 or 10 different lifetimes for somebody in radio. And he lasted that long, and he lasted that long for good reason, because he worked hard. He's good on the air. And I had a blast talking to him. I mean, he was such a cool guy.
Hey, I mentioned you can also be found on Oldies XL, a really good website and app for folks who like to listen to those great top 40 hits from the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. Are you on there every weekend?
Yeah, Saturday and Sunday. I work 7 days a week between all my jobs. You know how it is. I mean, it's again, not to be cliche, but this business kind of gets in your blood, and even though you work a lot of jobs, you work a lot of hours, it doesn't feel like you're working because you like what you do. I've always loved doing music radio. And music radio these days has changed. They've taken a lot of the personality out of it. Some of the DJs you hear on the air aren't live. They've been pre-recorded. Not only are they pre-recorded, but in many cases, they're pre-recorded from hundreds or thousands of miles away, and they don't really know Philadelphia. So Oldies XL is kind of a throwback. And I go there and I have a blast because I can go on the air and I can be myself and I can be a personality and have fun. And I'm a music guy. I love good music. And every weekend I'm there, I'll hear a couple of songs that I haven't heard in a long time. And that's pretty cool.
I actually listened for a little while on Saturday and I heard a bunch of great tunes. And then I heard a not so great tune, Chewy Chewy by the Ohio Express.
Yeah, well, there's
I'm sure somebody loved that song at some point. It wasn't me though.
You can't bat 1,000. That wasn't one of my favorites either. Yeah, there's a couple of songs like the bubblegum type music. I'm not really into, but especially like 60s music you don't really hear on the radio anymore. Even a lot of 70s songs you don't hear on the air anymore. But that's why specialty places, whether it's internet radio or satellite radio, that's why they're becoming so popular, because I've always said that good music is timeless. Mm-hmm. And just because a song came out 50 years ago doesn't mean it's not a good song. Doesn't mean you can't still play it.
Random question. What was the first concert you ever went to?
Oh my God. I got to think about that.
Now, see, that's something you should know right off the bat. Okay.
All right. Okay. You're going to laugh. You're going to laugh. And it was a concert that my parents took me to. I was a kid. Mm-hmm. All right. It was the Temptations and the Four Tops.
That's not bad, actually.
Do you remember the Valley Forge Music Fair?
I remember it. I was never actually there, but I do remember it certainly.
It was, in my opinion, the best venue that this area ever had. It was a theater in the round setting. Yeah. There wasn't a bad seat in the place. And the stage, so again, it was theater in the round, a round stage, and the stage spun slowly as the performers, so everybody got to, you eventually got to see the front of the performer. So it was a great venue. I think there's like a shopping center on that ground now. But Valley Forge Music Fair, Temps and the Tops.
That's a good show. My very first concert, 1976, in beautiful Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Kiss. Of course, you were just a toddler in 1976. I know that.
But... I was 3 years old.
Yeah.
Kiss must have been a great show, man. Where was it? In Harrisburg.
It was at the Harrisburg Farm Show Arena, which I believe is still there and still occasionally does shows.
It is still there, yes.
Yeah. Hey, last thing I noticed on Facebook last week that with your sports scene show Off the Air, someone mentioned to you about the possibility of doing a podcast, and you said something like, "You know me well." So is there a Jason Lee sports podcast on the way, perhaps?
There is. I don't know when. Just because honestly I'm so busy, I don't know, but it's pretty cool. It's actually going to be it's a project I'm doing with my son. My son Ethan is 20 years old, and he's got his own company called Blue Eye Visual, and they do like video, and he's into like film, and I'm biased of course, but he's a really creative kid. Well, he's not a kid anymore. One of the reasons I was sad that sports scene was going away was because I really enjoyed what you and I are doing right now. I enjoyed the interviews. I enjoyed the conversations. I don't even call them interviews. They're conversations. I mean, you're the same way, Chet. You have a guest on. You don't go through a bullet point Q&A. You have a conversation. And I loved having the conversations with the people that I had on the air. So that's what I want to do. I'm going to do a sports interview / conversation podcast. The tentative title is the Sports Convo with Jason Lee. So
I like it.
Look out for that wherever you get your podcast.
I like it. We broke some news here tonight. That's great.
There you go.
Well, Jason, as I knew it would be, this was a blast. You want to promote anything or tell people where they can follow you on social media?
Well, you mentioned Oldies XL, Saturday and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., oldiesxl.com.
Check that out.
I pop up occasionally still on PHL 17 Morning News. I produce the 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock hours, but I'll pop up on camera from time to time. The news goes from 5 to 9, and I'm really proud of the product that we put out. I really think it's good, and I think you'll like it. On X, whatever they're calling it, on X and Instagram, it's at Jason Lee on air. So give me a follow. I'll follow you back.
Jason Lee, this was awesome. Let's do it again sometime.
Chet, my pleasure. I really appreciate you having me on. Appreciate it.
Hi, this is Ray Dinger, and it is always fun to talk sports with these two guys, Bill and Chet, on Philly Pressbox Radio.
Well. No Bill Furman this week, as you know, but if he were here at this point, he would say something about Allstate Insurance, and I would say, yeah, Bill, Allstate and Allstate pay-as-you-go auto insurance is the way to go because it puts you in control. You only pay for the miles you drive with the same full coverage that a traditional policy offers. Pay-per-mile insurance gives customers greater control of their insurance costs. See how much you can save with pay-per-mile car insurance by calling your local agent. In Westchester, Pennsylvania, that is Dave Lavoie. And by the way, in addition to auto insurance, Dave's Allstate office also offers home and renter's insurance, life insurance, business insurance, and more. Allstate in Westchester. Call Dave Lavoie at 610-430-0700. Once again, 610-430-0700. And, there are so many great shows on the Edge of Philly Sports Network. Yeah, we like to think that we're one of them, but there's a whole bunch more. And after our show on Wednesday evenings, it is the guys from Edge of Philly Sports. It's the flagship show. They've been around since the beginning of the EOP network. We were one of their first editions, but they've got a bunch of other ones now too. And you can see the schedule right there. Great content every week. So please check some of these guys out and help us out by hitting the subscribe, follow, and like buttons. And as always, share with your family and friends. All right. Now, before I bring our good friend, the Boopster, on, I want to mention that I watched the new documentary the other day. It just arrived on Amazon Prime. And I'm talking about, of course, Kelce. And boy, if you love Jason Kelce already, and what Eagles fan doesn't, you will love him even more after this. As you probably know by now, it's a documentary that's mainly about our future Hall of Fame centers 2022-23 season, which ended with the Kelce Bowl, but it's so much more than that. We learned about how his 12, now 13-year pro career has taken on his body, the toll that it's taken on his body, 7 surgeries, arthritis. We get to meet his amazing wife, Kylie, and their couple of daughters. And man, a cuteness overload when you see their kids. Just awesome. Wait till you hear how Jason and Kylie actually met and what happened with Jason on their first meetup. As I said, a whole lot of cuteness with those kids, including when the older daughter sings Fly, Eagles Fly. There's also, though, a whole lot of F-bombs, just so you know, even a bunch from Coach Sirianni in one segment that we see the coach on. Of course, you'll see lots of brother Travis Kelce also, and their cool parents, Donna and Ed. And, well, I could go on and on and on, but just trust me on this. Kelce, the documentary, is must watch for any Eagles fan. And in fact, you don't have to be an Eagles fan or even a football fan to enjoy it. So check it out. Kelce, 1 hour and 43 minutes in length. It's available on Prime Video. I promise you'll love it. You know what else you'll love? You'll love our next guest because he's a fan favorite. And he's here. We're going to bring him on right now. We're talking about the Boopster, Bob Vetrone Jr. via cell phone camera. How are you, Boop?
Doing just well, Chet. How are you?
All right. Boop has crappy internet all the time down at his South Jersey home. So bear with us, folks.
The girl pushed way down to the other end. I can barely even get to the Wi-Fi box from my office. We make do.
All right. We'll do what we can. We're going to talk, first of all, about that Eagles game on Sunday. I talked with Jason a bit about it. Not a great watch. I mean, they got the W, as we said, that is the most important thing. But boy, do you agree that maybe it is time to have guys play in the preseason so they get a little sharpness back before the actual regular season starts?
Well, that's what it looked like to me. It looked like they had the first team out in the first quarter, and then they sent the second team out in the first team's jerseys for the rest of it. It looked exactly like the first preseason game. I've always thought that the preseason was way long. Back in our 6 preseason games. Then they cut it to 4 and now 3. My argument to that is colleges don't season games and they come out raring to go a lot. So I don't know that preseason games are the answer, but for some teams it might have been. And this 2023 edition Eagles probably could have used a one under their belt.
Yeah, I'm with you. And we got a game Thursday night now. The Vikings come to town. Eagles had no problem beating them last year in the home opener, and the Vikings lost their opener this year. Are you worried at all about this? The Eagles are favored by 7, which is a pretty big point spread. I think it's the biggest one out of all 16 games this week, as a matter of fact. Second biggest, yeah.
There's a couple 8s out there.
Yeah.
I'm not worried. It was the Monday night game, and there were 8 days, and the city was beating them up about how bad the Patriots game shouldn't have been a win. Then that I'd worry, but 5 days is no chance for it to get into your head. You have to come right back out. You get 1 day, off. You're back on the field Tuesday. You're game planning, so that's not going to bother me. And the Eagles are all time 12-5 in Thursday prime time games. Second best record ever behind the Colts, who are 15-5. So there's that. I mean, it's not all under Nick. It's not all under this team, but I'm a big believer in history and numbers, especially when they go in our favor.
That's why we have this guy on. He always says some great stats like that. Eagles 12-5 on Thursday primetime games. Nakobe Dean out for the next 4 games at least because of that foot injury. Nicholas Morrow promoted. He did not look good in the preseason and camp from what we understand, but now he's got to play because they don't exactly have an abundance of linebackers. So we will see Nicholas Morrow and the young guy Cunningham and Christian Ellis or whomever. Are you worried at all about the linebacker situation?
Yeah, because you could tell the minute Dean left that they started attacking the middle of the field where Dean would have been and throw it underneath. And that's what little offense, because the Patriots didn't play great either. That's what little offense they got. They just kept throwing where it would have been. So, if Belichick can see that in the flash of a quarter, certainly the Minnesota coaches can see that over the couple of filming. So, yeah, I am worried. And part of that is the pass rush wasn't there that we've been used to for so many years. Let's face it, breaking news, they're not going to get the 70 sacks again this year, even if they played 18 games. So, there's a big correlation between how well your linebackers play and how quickly your defensive linemen get to the quarterback. And, right now they're a little lacking even more so than we thought in both areas.
And the other thing that Eagles fans are, still scratching their heads about regarding the past Sunday game was the use of the running backs and the inability to get the ball to Dallas Goedert. He was open a few times, but he only had 1 target. Is that on Sirianni or is that on the new offensive coordinator, Brian Johnson? What's going on there?
Well, even if it is on Brian Johnson a little bit, it's on the head coach mostly, because if you give him if he's giving Brian the clip on there, so they did not go to Dallas despite what Sirianni said. Let's say that. The running back thing scared me because running back committee, as long as it's a committee in the same game. I don't want them to go, hey, Gainwell, you get game 1, and we'll pass on to the next team too, and then DeAndre later. It just I like it much better to worry about who's coming in on the next play and what the matchups are. One of the things I read somewhere was when Deuce Staley was the running back coach, he was really good at mixing the right players at the right time. And he had a good mix of different running backs. The Super Bowl year especially showed you that with the Ajayi and Blount. So if they're going to pick a game and tell the running back, here's your 20 carry game, that works effectively than if the other team is looking across the sideline every play to see who's coming in.
Yeah, maybe we will see Rashad Penny this week. He was an inactive, coach's decision this past Sunday. DeAndre Swift, only the 2 touches. That's got to change. So it's got to be interesting.
Yeah.
I'll be watching Thursday night, as I'm sure you will. Hey, go ahead.
If I have to, I'll watch it. Sure.
Oh, yeah, you'll watch. Of course you will. How about the Chiefs 0-1 from their opener, losing to Detroit? That was a bit of a shock.
Yeah. Well, they were down a lineman on each side. One of their best offensive linemen left in free agency. Chris Jones had not signed. He has since signed, I think, because he saw how much they needed him.
Yeah.
And have, having the second best Kelce, a late scratch because of an injury in practice. And then they had more drops than a college liberal arts class. I mean, Tony had 4 himself. They probably had close to 10, and they still only lost by 5. So, I'm not worried that much, except for that Kelce's injury is going to be one of those things that linger all year. They got their defensive lineman back, and he always seems to shore up the offensive line somehow. Meanwhile, Derek Paul, what's his name, the Miami guy keeps going and setting records, and I keep thinking, boy, he'd still look good in red. But those are the breaks.
It's funny. I guess Mahomes was okay other than all the drops, but you had Joe Burrow who stunk it up. You had Jalen Hurts who was so-so. You had Josh Allen who was pretty awful in the Monday night game. Yeah. And then you have Aaron Rodgers, of course, getting hurt on his 3rd or 4th snap as a New York Jet. What's going to happen with the Jets now? Is Carson Wentz going to get a phone call?
Boy, who knows? Nick Foles is still out there also. There's a lot of guys. Chet, you're probably just like me. Is the minute you saw Aaron Rodgers go down, you'd think back to 1991 and Randall against the Packers. which was I always think was very early, but it was in the second quarter of that game. So, but that was the heartbreak of all heartbreaks, because that team was coming off the 1-1-1 defense that led the league in defensive rushing, passing, scoring, and they were primed to go, and that just undercut. So I'm not going to say I feel bad for any New York fan, but if you're a Jets fan in particular, or if there are football fans in New York that are fans of both teams, boy, that other than the Jets pulling out a win, that was a pretty bad weekend to have. 40-0 to start. That was ugly too.
I sure do remember 1991 Bryce Pop.
Yes, it was.
Packers. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to our picks, Boop.
Chet.
In week 1, let's see. Yeah, Bill was 2-2. You and I were both 3-1. Boop went with the Giants, so he was only 40 points off.
I was in it for 7 seconds.
Yeah, let's start with the Giants. The Giants are at Arizona this week. I'm not sure what the line is, but I'm sure the Giants are favored. Arizona, not that great. Giants look awful.
Yeah, that did 3.5. Road teams coming off a 40-point home loss, 2-10-1 since the merger. So I think the Giants might rebound. The Cardinals were very bad, but I think they got the Giants at the right time, and they may squeeze one out of them here. I mean, having to go cross country after losing by 40 points is not fun.
Yeah, I thought about it, but I'm taking the Giants. I think they're a much better team than they showed. Not a great team, but certainly they can't be anywhere near as bad as they were the other night, and they're going to, try to make up for that ugly performance. So I'm taking the Giants. Bill is also taking the New York Football Giants. Next up, we have those Jets who we were just talking about, and they are at Dallas. I think the line on that one did go up to 9 points or something already?
8.5 when I checked it this morning. It could easily be 9 now. They hadn't announced Rodgers yet. Home teams, by the way, coming off a 40-point road win since the merger, 18-0. You win on the road that big, you're going to go home. You're not going to lose, and neither will the Cowboys.
Yeah, got to go Dallas, as did Bill. Next up, we have Washington at Denver. And boy, just thinking about Joshua Harris makes me want to vomit, but that's a whole nother story. The Commanders at the Broncos.
Yeah, having to come from behind to beat the Cardinals in your season opener is not the best part of your season. So I'm going to go the other way. It's just not. I just don't see the Commanders doing.
Yeah, Denver, and Bill also takes the Broncos to win this one. And that gets to that Thursday night game at the Link, Vikings at Eagles. It's still a 7-point line. Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's what I saw. It's probably going to stay there because Minnesota, people still think of Minnesota as being better than they are because they keep showing up here in playoff games.
Yeah.
So the line around here is going to stay around there. I think the Eagles are going to pretty much breeze to this. Like I said, it's a good week. Not thinking about stuff sometimes is the best thing that can happen to you. And I think that's what's going to happen to the Birds. They're going to play more naturally. And, hopefully we'll see Jalen Hurts from last year more so than a little ish there at some points. But, and maybe, they won't ball in a game or a play when he absolutely should have had a running back in the backfield. But I don't want to harp on that too much.
Yes, you do.
One of two bad Sirianni games at the end of the game, plays at the end of the game.
Yeah, he was not at his best. I got to take the Eagles as well. Bill also. I don't think I would bet the point spread, though. I just have a feeling it might be right around 7. So I'm taking the Eagles with the money line, but I'm not going to bet the spread. So we have pretty much the same picks, except you are taking the Arizona Cardinals to beat the Giants.
Yeah, the thing with you and not being the spread's good. I like that because other than
Boop, you froze. You froze. Shake your phone, Boop.
Hello.
There you are.
Sorry about that. One of my dogs must have sneezed.
That was it. I'm sure you said something important, but that's okay. Let's move on. The margin of victory, survivor pool, whatever the hell we're calling it. I don't know. We're going to survive no matter what. And last week, Boop, you moved into first place in week 1 because, you got the correct pick and you won by 10, whereas Bill and I both took those Commanders who pulled out a 4-point victory. So we are both 1-0 with 4 points. This week, I have Bill's pick. He has taken the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm sure that pained him to have to say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's taking the Cowboys. I'm taking Buffalo because Buffalo has who? I forget.
Good. I don't have my sheet here. Hold on.
I don't either, but Buffalo is at home against
Raiders.
somebody.
Raiders.
Raiders, that's it. Yes. I took Buffalo. And your margin of victory pool pick, Boop?
The Lions went and beat my Chiefs last week, so I'm gonna go with them. They're hosting the Seahawks. They could be feeling good about themselves. Might be able to roll up a double-digit win against Seattle. So you beat my team, the Chiefs. I'll back you for a week or so.
All right, we'll go with that. Now, look, I told people at the beginning of the show we are not doing this week's show live, so we actually recorded it Tuesday night. It's true, yeah. I'm honest. So we can't talk about what the Phillies are doing in their Tuesday night game, but what's your feeling in general about the Phils after what we've seen lately with the bullpen problems and Aaron Nola again having a horrible inning in the middle of a game? What are you thinking about the Phils as we get closer to the postseason?
Yeah. Because Turner's turned it around and because we've seen flashes of brilliance from Castellano, or they were much earlier in the season, and that kind, they've got enough firepower to win any game in the postseason, even against the Braves. They've got one absolutely stud starting pitcher, and they have the potential for one or two others among the four that are out there. So I'm not going to say they're going to make the playoffs. They're too good of an offensive team to not. Once they get there, matchups are going to matter. How hot the opposing team is, and I hate to say this, but I don't. Hoffman is like the only guy right now I trust in that bullpen. Yeah. A couple of those guys I've never liked them, and they'd get like 6 or 7 straight outings. And I'm like, okay, I like this guy, and then I'll have a blow up inning. So, and I'm an old school guy where I still want the 8-inning starter to go like in the mid 70s. So I've always had a thing against relievers unless it's Gene Garber, Ron Reed, and Tug McGraw. So. If they can figure out who's going to be the second best starting pitcher in the postseason, which at this point looks like Walker, and get one of the other 3 guys in the third, they're going to be okay because the offense is going to be there. Even if 2 of the 6 guys are slumping at some point, the other 4 guys are going to be getting on and getting around the bases. And even the bottom of the lineup most days have been doing well. I got to tell you, though, my wife became a big Rojas fan because she was there his first that night game when he got his 3 hits. Yeah. So she went and bought a Rojas jersey, and now I have to explain every time he doesn't start why he's not starting. And so I really would like for Robbie, just put him in for every game, no matter if the other pitchers left, right, or ambidextrous. It'll make my home life much easier.
I hear you. Hey, Boop, did you bet on Penn State last weekend, that 44.5-point line? They covered.
I did. I bet the money line, and I got a boost, so I bet $10 to win 4. So I had 1 free beer on Sunday on the Lions, which, hey, if I do that every week, I'm fine with that. A free beer.
You were really able to get a boost on a 44.5-point line?
Yeah, it was with a money line of like minus 800. So I ended up like minus 400. It's just,
I was going to bet on Novak Djokovic. Is that his name? Yeah, the tennis guy last week in one of the matches. And the line was like 10,000 to 1 or something. Yeah. So you would have to bet like $20 to win 20 cents or something ridiculous. Yeah. So I said, I think I'm going to pass.
Yeah, exactly. My 20,000 is busy elsewhere.
All right. You have any other little tidbits, Boopstats?
Not many. Just still try to. I told you this before. I'm not a big off-season guy, so I don't pay attention to a lot of the NFL until they actually start. So it's once they get going, I can look around and see how they're doing. I do know that I think my daughter got into her first fantasy league up in North Jersey this year and took Stafford, who had a great weekend. So a great Sunday. So I'm real proud of her. Which I guess, the Chiefs losing and Eagles struggling, that might have been about the best football thing done by Vetrone all weekend.
I hear you, Boop. Hey, enjoy the game Thursday night. Enjoy all the action you're going to watch on the tube Saturday and Sunday. And we'll do this again, hopefully.
Yes, and I'll see if I can't get my Wi-Fi to, actually work sometime.
Okay. I think you should move. You're going to have to move out of there.
Yeah, you and my wife both suggest that all the time.
All right, Boop. Take care.
Thanks, Chet. Say hi to Bill if he ever comes back.
I will. Thanks. See ya.
You too.
There he is, Mr. Boopstats himself. And after that, I have a feeling somebody might need a lawyer.
All right, guys, let's talk about Cherry Law Firm. If you get hurt at work in a motor vehicle accident, personal injury, or affected by criminal law, you got to call David R. Cherry of the Cherry Firm. Call 610-565-0300 or go to cherryinjurylaw.com. Let David R. Cherry fight for your rights. Again, that number is 610-565-0300. That's 610-565-0300 or go to cherryinjurylaw.com. Let David R. Cherry fight for your right.
Hey, lest we forget, Cavs Philly tailgates is very busy this time of year because, well, it's football season. They're doing tailgates all the time. And they'll be there by Live Casino on Thursday evening. So check out their situation. Cavs Philly tailgates cooking up terrific catering work for more than 30 years now. They have the tailgate parties. They're a 3-time winner of Philly's Tailgates Jack Daniels Great American Tailgate Party Contest and a past winner of the Philly Daily News Tailgate Award. If you check the website, you can get all the details on what they have coming up. And again, this is over by Live Casino. You can order your tickets via the website, phillytailgates.com. Check the site. And if you have any questions, you can email them at cavscatering@verizon.net. Cavs Philly Tailgates, the way to go. If you don't know, Cavs also works with the guys at Philly Sports Trips, and they're who you need to use for all Eagles road games and more. And Philly Sports Trips has a lot of things coming up, including a trip to Tampa later this month. So you'll want to check their website also, phillysportstrips.com. They had a blast up in Foxborough last week. And they will be not only at Tampa Bay, but they're going out to the West Coast for that Eagles-Rams game, October 8th. And then up to MetLife to see not Aaron Rodgers, but whoever's quarterbacking the New York Jets at that time. Maybe it'll be Carson Wentz. Who knows? Check phillysportstrips.com for all the pricing information and much, much more. Now, if you're wondering about who is going to be with us next week, and by us, I mean Bill Furman and me, I have some information on that front. We very well may have two guests, but one is not yet definite. So I'm going to hold off on that one. But I can guarantee you a great show. And Mr. International Bill Furman will indeed be back. So he'll have some stories about that. I know he's been in Italy the last several days. And I was there last October. Italy is great. If you've never been there, be sure to go and check it out. I wonder if his European vacation included Chevy Chase. Who knows? That was a movie. Anyway, in addition to the Furminator being back in action, I can't wait to have this guest join us. He wrote this book right here. It's Bob Angelo. Now, Bob Angelo retired just a couple of years ago, but he worked at NFL Films for 43 years. As a cameraman, he shot some 850 or so games, 42 Super Bowls, I believe. He worked with NFL Films legend John Facenda, of course, and our pal Ray Didinger. In fact, if you look right here, Ray Didinger, it says, wrote the foreword for this book. And Ray mentioned that. We talked with Ray about it a few weeks ago. So the book is called The NFL Off Camera, an A to Z guide to the league's most memorable players and personalities. And you're going to hear from Bob Angelo himself next week. He is terrific. And this book is really, really cool. And what I really like about it is all the chapters, A to Z, alphabetically by the last name of the players and coaches he talks about. Every single chapter is 2 or 3 pages long. So, you could read a couple of those mini chapters in a 10-minute sitting and then come back to it hours later. So great, great stuff. All right. We are going to wrap up a few minutes early tonight because, it's a one-man show and I can't talk this long. But next week, join us. Bill Furman's back. We got Bob Angelo joining the show. Hopefully, we'll be talking about a 2-0 Eagles team. Hopefully, the Phillies will be on a roll and closer to clinching that top wild card spot. So that's all we got. It's Philly Pressbox Radio. Remember, we're getting more and more followers and subscribers on our website, or I'm sorry, on our YouTube channel. The website's kind of in limbo right now because we got hacked. So the YouTube channel is where you want to make sure you subscribe. Again, we are on YouTube at Philly Pressbox Radio. And while you're there, subscribe to my personal channel. Call me Chet. I post a lot of the random Chet stuff that I do on this show, as well as music videos and other random stuff, or, you know, the other word. So there you go. And don't forget, watch the Kelce documentary. It is there. It is on Prime Video. It's an hour and 43 minutes. You will absolutely love it. That's all I got. So we got a game Thursday night. We got the Phillies in action pretty much every day anymore. So go Phillies and fly, Eagles, fly. Have a great week, everybody.
Let's do the song. Come on. Come on. Here we go.